Good morning, Sabine. I'm so happy to have you here with us. And this is our next interview in our series of interviews with self-publishing authors. So a little bit about Sabine. So she is a 3-time best-selling author of a 4-part series that is collaboratively written. The first 2 are collaborated with women. They are entitled Rise in Pursuit of Empowerment and Joy Recipes for Abundance. Her 3rd book is with thought leaders that she wrote them, and it's called Shift, A New Era Begins. Her 4th book in this 4-part series is forthcoming soon. And Sabine is a passionate business startup and growth strategist who specializes in helping women find their purpose and monetize their unique skills so that they can build a thriving business. Her signature program is called the Business Accelerator Mastermind, and that teaches and supports entrepreneurs to implement an easy-to-follow methodology around how to build long-term profitability businesses without overwhelm and detours. She also runs the Greatness Club, which complements the work she does with her mastermind and provides women a platform and a springboard for visibility, networking, and lead generation. Sabine has many years of experience as a corporate leader, consultant, and has worked with over 1,000 people in senior positions. So once again, welcome. I'm really happy to have you here.
Thank you, Francine. I'm also very happy to be here, and I know it was a rather long introduction, but it's all about your listeners now, and I'm sure I can share a few insight as to how I got there, because I did start indeed in corporate, and I'm like a self-made entrepreneur basically, and writing books was never on the cards for me, to be honest. It
Yes.
was a surprise to me.
Well, I would really love to hear a little bit about your backstory. How did you end up becoming, leading to coaching and consulting? What does that journey look like?
Again, it was not planned at all. So yes, as you said, I was working in large corporates. I was always kind of the coach, or let's say the person who people can sort of confide in, and when they had a problem. And I kind of naturally went into that kind of role, whilst I actually was employed to actually do process and project management and large sort of cost saving improvements in, i.e. manufacturing. Like Mars chocolate was one of my adventures. So yeah, I was actually doing that. But when I had children, I had a rethink. All of a sudden, when my second child was born, I really didn't want to go back to the 9 to 5 and grind it out there. I just felt like out of place. But I did know that I had a skill. But what was a skill? The skill was more like the businessy type of stuff that was doing for the corporates. So all of a sudden you realize, oh gosh, I'm on my own now. I've set up this business because I went all in. I literally went all in overnight, because there was no point for me to go back after my daughter was born. I wanted to stay with her, and obviously my son, who was already 2 years old at the time, and just wanted to see them grow up. So I said, well, I can probably go and offer the services, the kind of skills that I showed in previous organizations, and she's be a consultant, which I actually did for the first 6 years. I was literally, and it was word of mouth. It was just that, it was brilliant. I didn't have to go and do the marketing. But once that dried up, things drastically changed, and I had to actually start really educating myself in what does it actually take to be a true entrepreneur who has actually got a pipeline full of work coming through, and on a continuous basis. Because all of a sudden you realize, oh, 1 month is good, the other month is not so good. So what does it take to continuously actually get yourself out there to the right people, have the right message? So I actually really started to re-educate myself for many, many years to come. And I didn't actually know. Didn't know that at the time. So, and one thing led to another. And at some point, you know, as you do, you kind of become like inspired. And with writing the books, actually, I definitely did not think I was going to write a book. Especially, I'm not even a native English speaker. But what inspired me, all of a sudden one morning, I actually woke up in 2018 and I had a clear vision as to what I needed to go and do, because I'm quite good with bringing people together, showing them, you know, how they can be visible. And I told you just in the pre-chat, Francine, that I used to run these kind of shows. I did marathons, like 3 hours of interviews at one go with like 6 different entrepreneurs every single week for a whole year. So I think I must have interviewed way over 150 women. And actually, I remember in December 2019, I actually interviewed 100 women every single day. I think I did 5, sort of a countdown to Christmas.
Wow, that's incredible.
So, but what that gave me was really the exposure, and it was like really understanding what entrepreneurship is all about and where people are at, why people are starting entrepreneurship. And that actually led to this inspiration of writing those books with other entrepreneurs. And you know what, when the pandemic happened, that 3rd book just happened. It was literally like, right, you got to go and write stories about the pandemic and interview others around how they've actually gone through the hard parts and what they were and how they're going to think about recovering, because I think we were all going through the same sort of things, and we were all in the same boat. So that's really what kind of inspired me. And a long story, rather, well, medium short.
So it was your circumstances actually fueled the desire to share, like the pandemic, for example, inspired your 3rd book, and gave voice to a lot of.
Exactly. If you think about it, the 1st book, which is this one here, it's called Rise in Pursuit of Empowerment. This is actually a woman rising. It's about women's voices, women's story. And that was actually me rising, you know, from doing what I thought I could do best. And then I completely changed direction and started to actually help other female entrepreneurs, because I felt like it was really hard and overwhelming to actually get to grips with all the marketing and how to do this and technology. Oh my goodness, you know, back in the days, that was like 2015, when I looked into sales funnels, there was nothing snazzy out there, or where you can copy paste some sort of funnel template. It wasn't just that, right? So I actually had some coding to do, and it was awful. And my first website was absolutely atrocious. I actually deleted it. I was like, oh, I've got to go and get a web designer. But the Rise was really talking about that shift for me and other women, obviously the other 24 women. And, you know, my husband, very, very grateful for him. He's actually designed not only the cover, but also the interior, because I really wanted this to be not just a book to read, but also a feast for the eyes. If you look at it, every co-author has got a page with some really beautiful imagery,
lovely.
and we have some quotes in there as well. So this was all the starry theme, basically. So every one, so you have like a couple of pages of chapter, then you have me here, like the profile,
Beautiful
and
shot
that
of you.
allowed that allowed actually everyone who was featured in the book to be featured as an author and actually get their names out, because they're all entrepreneurs. So here you have another one. So this all kind of starry. So that was obviously book 1, and book 2 then came about when I felt like, here I am, I have arrived. And with that, I felt like the next book should be joy. It should be about recipes for abundance, because so many people, and it was just about the beginning of the pandemic when we released this book in February 2020. I said, let's do something fun. Exactly. Let's do something fun. Let's do some real recipes. Like literally, I wrote about a cocktail, how to create your happiness cocktail. Like, you know, you add a luscious peach, some sugar, 2 tablespoons of sugar-coated sweethearts, 5 scoops of silliness, and 2 squeezy hugs. So every woman in the book did kind of the same. So we did literally recipes. So that was the inspiration in terms of the empowerment books, so to speak.
I love how organically everything kind of came to be for your inspiration for your book process. But what made you decide to go the self-publishing route as opposed to the traditional?
So I did quite a bit of research before well, did I do I don't know. I fell into this. I literally so. And then I did start research. So it started off with me waking up one morning and I was like, I need to go and write a book with 100 inspirational people. Okay. I told my husband over breakfast, he said I was nuts. Especially, I've never had written a book. And I said, yeah, but you're a graphic designer. I'm sure you can do all the other bits, right?
That's right.
He's like, yeah, but I'm not really a book designer. And actually was new to us, both of us. I mean, he actually had to go and invest in new software and had a look at the whole templates, because he didn't just want it to be any kind of book.
Course.
So he's intricately actually designed the interior as like the whole joy was all about flowers. Obviously, we talked about the rise. It was all about reaching for the stars, and so in on the inside you have stars and flowers in addition in each of the chapters. And then the shift book was all about bubbles, because we were all in bubbles, and as you can see,
Yes.
everyone in bubbles, all our co-authors. But I said, oh, you can do this. I actually kind of talked him into this. But then a few weeks later, it really hit me, because I hadn't thought about it anymore. And then I was, at the time, I was running networking events online. So, I was working online way before the pandemic ever happened, and did all the networking online and stuff and connecting women across the globe. But during this networking event, a copywriter came into my meeting, and then I was like, oh gosh, I need to speak to her. And she's like, yeah, I do books all the time, with sort of collaboration books. They're a bit more complex, because you have other people that you got to coordinate. I said, yeah, that's not a problem.
Yes.
I'm a project manager anyway. But I would say though, it is a little bit complex, because you have lots of paperwork, you got legal documents, you got to have their profiles, their pictures, their obviously the chapters, and all of that needs to go to the copywriter in orderly fashion. And then you have 25 folders on a Google Drive somewhere, and several checklists to make sure you got everything. And then obviously you got to think about what to put in the front of the book and at the back of the book, and
That's right.
and everything else, right? But this person gave me the insights, and I thought, actually, I could do this. And I haven't really thought about going to a publisher, because I really didn't have an idea about a book back then. I just had an idea of I should go and write a book with 100 people.
Yes, I get that.
And now we then came up with, let's do 4 times 25, because 1 time 100 is going to be a massive, it's going to be a Bible. So that's hence the 4th one's not out yet, because these things come organic. And I know next one's going to be with potentially my clients, because we're all making an impact in the world. So the next book's going to be
Beautiful.
potentially impact. So she then introduced me to someone who can do the stuff on Amazon, and who knows everything else about the whole process. And then I was working with these 2 ladies to actually get the book out. But I did all the marketing, because that was my forte already. I was helping other women launching their programs and stuff like this. So launching a book was just another campaign, really. On
An
that
extension of your knowledge base. Yes.
Exactly. So that's it. But if your listeners are thinking, oh, should I go the self-published route, or should I find a publisher? I'm not the expert on it, but I did look into what it takes with the whole publishing. Obviously, there are publishers out there that you have to pay money up front. There are publishers out there that you actually have, they may actually give you money for writing a book if you're really, really good, and if you believe that you can be a New York Times bestseller, obviously, then it works that way. But quite a lot of publishers actually do ask for money up front for their design and packaging and getting it out there. And then you have perhaps a minimum amount of books that you gotta pay. So there's different business models. But yeah, I just thought I'm going to just be free and
Take matters
DIY.
in your own hands.
Yeah,
Have that
basically,
control.
basically, because it could have taken me, I'm sure I could have sold this concept, because now obviously I have something in my hand and it's beautifully designed and
Yes.
it's seen, best-selling status on Amazon as well. But probably now I would have something to say, actually, would you publish this? And then I would probably get paid for it. But it wasn't on my horizon back then to actually specify, because I actually didn't know what's going to be like. I wouldn't have known. I would probably knew the first book, but the other three, no, they just came.
Yes. And now that you've published already 3 best-selling books, what kind of impact has that had on your business?
Yeah, so I mean, first and foremost, you don't make a lot of money just from selling books. It is actually a business card. Okay, so we got to be really clear, unless you're Tony Robbins and we have these big publishing deals and that kind of stuff, obviously. But for me, it was really establishing my authority in the marketplace. And a lot of people still actually come to me like, well, I've seen you've done these books, or I've just found you on Amazon or whatever. Certainly, getting more clients through the door. It's this authority piece. And obviously inspiring people. At the end of the day, it was really about inspiring, giving back. I had calls from HR departments who found me on LinkedIn, even schools who saw me as an author. They wanted me to come and do book talks. So I actually sold books into schools and into organizations as well. For example, a large talk I had with Dell Technologies, they invited me for their women's empowerment conference. So
Wow.
you never know where it takes you, right? You just got to be open-minded.
It literally opened doors for you that you never would have received.
Well, and we haven't really spoken about this, but actually it opened up a second business arm for myself as well. So apart from helping female business owners get into or growing and scaling their online businesses,
Yes.
I actually open up a second business, which actually goes back into corporate. So we're back full 360 degrees from where I started, to actually help organizations and their employees with the empowerment piece. And it's actually called the Empowerment Portal. So I actually have a second business arm, and without the books, this would have not come into my head, into my mind. And because I went into organizations and they loved the books, and it was back then, it was The Rise was the first one. And women especially came up to me after the talk and asked me, where can we get empowered? Where can we find some more resources? Because our organization only provides us with the basic skills of whatever we need for the job. But this empowerment thing, that was pre-pandemic, by the way. Probably now it's a bit more like people are aware and they want this. And so I started off this empowerment portal, which started to be a membership at first, but now we've actually morphed it into more of a training and a boutique consulting firm that goes into organizations and rolls out different programs to help empower employees. And with people who actually were in the book as well, because they helped me to develop this concept as well, because they were obviously, every book has 25 entrepreneurs in there who actually do work in the field, potentially more with individuals, but they can easily do this in the corporate world as well.
I really love how everything just kind of flowed together, and each of your books kind of builds from the previous one and gives you a greater evolution of it's a sign of the times, and yet at the same time showing us what is possible. So for someone that is considering self-publishing, what advice or suggestions would you say to them?
Well, if you do a collaboration book, you will need some support. Unless you're a very good project manager. There's been obviously lots of different challenges that I had to deal with, and you have a thick skin because even discussing the title of the book or what should the design of the front page look like, there are 25 different opinions, 26 including my husband's. But if you do your own book, I guess it's actually not too hard. It's just you just need to maximize the opportunity. Once you got your book out there, obviously there is a process to follow in terms of copywriting. Make sure you read it like 3-4 times, because the last thing you want is actually reading the book, your own book on a beach, after it's out there and people bought it on Amazon, and you find this typo or these 2 or 3 typos. It's terrible, right? This is important, and giving other people, the book to read as well. Make sure they give you reviews. And what I did as well, I had a launch team. I actually got my best buddies together, and obviously all the people that were in the book, they also got their buddies together. So all of a sudden we had a launch team of 200 people who on the launch day, and let's say the launch week, would actually share about the book. And we also created bonuses. We created a landing page, still actually there, by the way. I think you're going to share it with the audience. People can actually opt in as well. And you can, if you wish to, build an email list and market to them your other offers. Obviously, if you're targeting, depends what kind of book you're writing. Obviously, mine was more business related, so ideal people would buy my book. Then you can actually contact them afterwards as well. But yeah, we created a bonus. Like we did even an audiobook. I asked each of the collaborators, and including myself, we actually read the story, and we created this audiobook that people could download as an additional bonus. Yeah, and I just shout about it. Don't just buy it, put it on Amazon and hope people are going to buy it. It's not going to happen.
You have to take some action. Yes, definitely. And with the collaborative, it gives an interesting perspective to the self-publishing for, the audience that are watching this in replay, that although it takes much more organization, it gives a different flavor for the book because there's so many different voices that are coming together to share their thoughts, views, experiences with the world. So
exactly.
Yeah.
And I find it hard to read a whole book in a sitting. I'm getting very distracted. I read several different books, and now I actually love to listen to audiobooks as I'm cooking and doing other household chores. But the books that I've put out there are actually little bedtime stories for adults, or more for women. The first two are definitely for women. So that it's literally 1,000 words, 3 pages, a little nugget of inspiration, and you can just sort of browse through the book. You don't even have to read it from front to the back.
Well, speaking of that, I would love to hear an excerpt from one of your books. That would be fabulous.
Yeah, I'm going for the Joy Recipes for Abundance. My story is all about childhood memoirs, and I actually talk about how joy was when we were a child and when we were children, and how joyful lives we actually lived without, that feeling sense of heavy duty. And back then I was kind of a 5-6-year-old that was, selling little stationery bits and pieces, just sitting by the road in front of our house. And then there was the odd bypassers, and they were just looking at myself and my friend. And so we would sort of sell these things for 10p or something like this, and even worry about what people thought of us. It's just perhaps tapping back into that kind of into that sense of, before we thought life was serious, do we have those kind of moments? So I'm just going to read a little bit about this whole joy thing, and when we can all be joyful. And I think we need this right now with doom and gloom globally.
Yes, that balance. Please grace us with some joy.
Okay, so I believe joy happens when we are purely living in the moment. I think it is every child's intuition to seek great times by connecting with nature, being playful and creative, as well as exploring new things. When we go through life, remember who we are at heart, lose the fear of being judged, and believe in our capabilities. We reach for greatness, and when we finally silence self-doubt and fear of failure, we create a feeling of lightness and invincibility, subsequently unleashing and celebrating joy and abundance.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. We're wrapping up our interview for today, but is there any last words of wisdom or things that you would like to share with the readers today, with the audience?
I would just say, look, from my story I just told you, anything is possible. If, you know, even if you thought, you know, you've never done this, you're not sure, the way will always show itself once you're committed. So go for it.
Thank you so much once again. I will have all of your links to the bios in the description below. And you had offered also very graciously to include a little freebie. Do you want to just share that with the audience?
Yes, I think you should have a link. I think it's
I will include that,
yeah, you can download my Rise and Joy book on this particular link. So you just can go through that one. And yeah, obviously I'm on Facebook. I'm Sabine Matharu. That's where I am everywhere, even on LinkedIn. So feel free to reach out, ask me questions. Happy to help.
So thank you so much once again. I will leave all the contact information in the link below. And thank you for gracing us with your presence, your knowledge, and sharing us your journey of self-publishing. Have yourself a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you, Francine.